Hey everyone, it's Tanya from Shattered Bones. Today I am going to be reading from my blog again, Storytime with Shattered Bones. And this one I wrote in April of 2020 and it's called The Easter Bunny. I actually wrote it around Easter last year. Holidays really trigger me, and when I read my blogs, if you want to read my blogs yourself, you can go to shatterbones.com and click the link, and then you can read all of my blogs that I have written so far. I paused for a while in my writing while I was healing, and I'm writing again. So there will be new blogs being posted on a regular basis now. And have asked me to read the blogs, and I've enjoyed reading the blogs. At first, it was hard for me to even read them. But now I enjoy reading them. It's healing for me, and I also can add some parts I didn't maybe put in my actual writing. And you guys, it also opens up an opportunity for you to ask me questions about things, and I can answer them. Hopefully, by reading my blogs, if you grew up in a toxic family too, you may realize that you have some similarities with what I grew up with in my childhood, and I can help you understand, heal from this kind of trauma, because the trauma that we experience as children affects us all the way through our adult life. It doesn't end when we leave that house. So I'm just trying to raise awareness of that. My parents are still alive. My family's still, my sister's still alive. I just have no contact with them. I've had no contact with them for 5 years now. So people often ask me that, but yeah, they're still alive. I just have no contact with them. So this is called The Easter Bunny. When I was very young, my mother would dress me up in bonnets and lace and pose me in front of huge Easter baskets for photos. This photo, at the beginning of this video, was taken when I was 2 to 3 years old. I look content and happy. I don't remember ever feeling this way. Easter and most holidays were incredibly stressful for me. My mother would get upset and build herself up to a frenzy prior to any big event that she had to put on a show. We had to appear to be the perfect family at all times, at all cost. I don't recall ever going to church with my parents for Easter. I only recall fighting chaos prior to any huge meal or holiday, and then even more stress afterwards. I was about 8 years old when the Easter Bunny brought me and my sister live baby bunnies. They were so tiny and fluffy and absolutely adorable. My father had built us wooden cages with a door and room for each of them to grow. Is this bunny really mine? I couldn't believe it. I was thrilled. I was finally going to have my own pet. My dad gave us strict instructions to make sure that they had food and water every single day. My little sister was only about 5 or 6 years old, so I knew I would be the main one caring for them, but I didn't mind. It was one of my happiest childhood memories. We named our bunnies, and we daily let them out to play. We fed them carrots by hand and pulled clovers for them, and the summer passed, and it was time for us to start school. I remember coming home after school, and the first thing my mother said was, "Your bunnies got out of your cage." I ran out the door and down to where the cages were, and the cage doors were wide open. My sister and I walked all over the field and tried to find our bunnies. They were gone. My father lectured me about responsibility and how it was my fault that they got out because I was the oldest. I knew that I had latched the hooks. I never left the doors open, but somehow I messed up. And now we didn't have our bunnies anymore. We ate dinner, and I cried myself to sleep. The following Easter, we were given 2 new baby bunnies. I was delighted. This time, I was determined to never ever let them escape. I called my best friend from next door. His family raised meat rabbits, and he told me, "There is no way a rabbit can unlatch a cage." I swore to him that I had the cages latched, but somehow that they got them open. So he gave me some thin wire for extra security. And every time I took my bunnies out now to feed them or play with them, I would latch the cage, and then I would carefully reinforce the latch by wrapping a wire through the door and through the cage, and then I would twist it many, many times. My friend assured me that there is absolutely no way a rabbit would ever be able to escape this. So I felt really secure and confident in his advice. Again, I cared for the bunnies. My sister played with them, but I was responsible for feeding them, watering them, and making sure they were always okay. The summer passed and it was time for school to start again. I came home from school and instinctively I had this bad feeling in my gut. By this time, I was really in tune to my mother's emotions. I knew how she was feeling, probably more than she knew. And I definitely knew how she was feeling more than I recognized my own feelings. She had a strange smirk on her face as she turned and looked me straight in the eye and said, "Tanya, your rabbits are gone again." I couldn't believe what I heard. I ran out the back door as fast as I could, down the stairs, just as she predicted. The doors were wide open. The wire was untwisted and hanging there useless. My heart sank, and I ran straight through the next door neighbor's house, crying hysterically. And he came outside with me and went straight to my cage, to my yard. He wanted to investigate. And he looked me straight in the eye and he said, "Tanya, someone let your bunnies out. There is no way a rabbit could ever do this. A human did this." And I felt my stomach drop. My entire world crumbled as I realized that my mother was letting my rabbits out of the cage just to hurt me. Of course, I couldn't accuse her of this, or I'd get in more trouble. So that evening at dinner time, my mother was behaving peculiar. She loved to eat, and for some reason, she was refusing to eat dinner with us tonight. It seemed really odd to me. My father had us, we were very ritualistic about dinner time. We had to wait for my father to get home. We had certain chairs that we had to sit in. We had to finish everything on our plates, and we had to ask to be excused from the table. Like I said, my father was very ritualistic and controlling. So to see my mother not eating, it was just, my radar and was just going off. So it seemed really odd to me, but I ate my dinner and went straight to my room. My father didn't lecture me this time, but boy, my sister did. She kept saying, "It's all your fault that our bunnies are gone." She was crying, and my sister loved animals of all kinds, and I knew she was right. I was in charge of keeping the bunnies safe, and once again, I failed miserably. As luck would have it, following Easter, I was turning 10, and guess what? Baby bunnies instead of a basket again. By then, I no longer believed in the Easter bunny. I noticed that we had the same exact basket year after year. I wasn't impressed. I handed my bunny to my sister. I looked both of my parents straight in the eyes, and I said, "I don't want a rabbit. She can have 2. And then I turned away and I went to my room. I never played with those rabbits, nor did I feed or water them. But my sister did, though. And summer passed and school began. As before, the rabbits mysteriously escaped their cages that fall. My sister was crushed. I felt really bad for her. She didn't get a lecture from anyone about the responsibility of owning a pet. No one said a word to her. It was dinner time, and again I noticed my mother acting out of sorts. Once again, she was refusing to eat with us. I looked at the stew in my bowl, and suddenly I realized what had happened to our precious pets. I looked at my father and I asked, "What kind of meat is this?" He said, "Beef." I said, "It doesn't taste like beef. It tastes like rabbit." My mother had the strangest smirk on her face. And my father started laughing uncontrollably. I did not ask to be excused from the table. I jumped up, I ran to the bathroom, and I started vomiting. I threw up in the toilet. My sister never understood why I wouldn't eat. I didn't explain it to her. I never trusted my parents after that day. The Easter Bunny never brought us baby rabbits again. A why not moment. And remember, a why not is Tanya spelled backwards. So I always make this moment about what a healthy family might have done rather than the family that I grew up in. So a why not moment. Teaching children responsibility by caring for a pet can be a valuable lesson. They learn to nurture and care for another living creature. If animals are intended to be used for meat, the children should be told that from day one. The only lesson this taught me was that my parents were liars and they could not be trusted. I believed my father intended to have us raise the meat rabbits. He wanted the meat, but he didn't want the responsibility of feeding and caring for the rabbits. Although we had plenty of money, so 2 rabbits wasn't much meat for a family of 4. As an adult, I finally concluded that he did this to us for some sort of sadistic pleasure. This was not done for meat, for a family. It happened for several years. Psychologically deriving pleasure from your children's pain is a sickness. I just cannot imagine like watching my children eat their pets and lecturing them and telling them how bad they are for letting the pets get out. I think that's why some of my stories are so unbelievable to people, because it is really hard to believe that this kind of shit can happen. But I promise you, this happened. Every single thing I write about in my blog happened. I guarantee it. And it happened the way I told it. Adult survivors who cannot form healthy bonds with their parents suffer for life. Healthy parents would have helped me raise those rabbits until they died a natural death. They would have been proud of how I cared for those animals every single day. They never would have blamed me for them getting out, knowing full well they took them out and butchered them, skinned them, and cooked them for me to eat. If one parent decided to eat our pets, the other parent should have been healthy enough to say, no, you are not going to do such a sadistic thing. There are absolutely no excuses for their horrible decisions. And that's my story about the Easter Bunny. Talk to y'all soon. Love y'all more.